At the age of 9, my father died from an overdose of heroin. He was with some friends. He OD'd. They took him to the Wilmington Hospital and they sat him on the stoop because all of them had criminal charges and they were scared to go in and get somebody to come help him.
She never did any kind of drugs before, no kind of heroin, cocaine, and people she was with shot her up with 4 bags of heroin, and she died in the car.
When he actually was chewing on fentanyl patches, and they found him on Lincoln Street with the fentanyl patch still in his mouth.
And it still breaks my heart that my son doesn't have a dad.
I received a phone call that is beyond any parent's worst nightmare, informing me my child had died.
My OD wasn't enough to scare me. It took all the way to losing somebody that I loved dearly, dearly, to make me turn around.
I was in a car with several other people, and after I took a hit, that's all I remember.
I shot the dope, fell back and hit my head on a log, and was out completely.
When I started moving, trying to get out of bed, I told my daughter, call the ambulance, because I don't feel right. My head is spinning and everything, and I don't feel too good, and I'm feeling bad. I couldn't see.
My relatives came home and found me there on the floor, pants halfway down, and then the syringe still stuck in my arm.
The guy who is now my ex-husband came home from work, found the bathroom door locked, took the door off the hinges, and I was unconscious on the floor with a needle in my arm.
I remember flapping like a fish on the floor in the bathroom.
So I turned blue, started sweating. They went into the mall. I was left in the car. They came out, and I wasn't even breathing. So they slapped me, stood me up, and I started breathing again. So they were like, "Oh, he's fine. Throw me back in the seat."
And pretty much, you know, I mean, the cats that were in the house, they kept going about their thing. I was in the corner. They just pushed me to the side and kept doing what they were doing.
He was in the house shooting dope and overdosed. Nobody called the ambulance. Left him there to die. He was dead for like they said like 6 hours before. Nobody called the ambulance or nothing.
And they were like arguing. They said they were. I didn't hear anything. I was so blacked out. They were arguing over whether who's going to take him to the hospital or not.
Those people lifted his body, placed it in his own vehicle. They drove it to the hospital and walked away.
Now, was he dead before they brought him there, or was he still, you know, able to be revived? I don't know.
And they just threw her out of the car and left her lay on the side of the road. And like she was an animal.
She was in a hotel. They were all doing dope and smoking crack all together. She shot dope, and she was dead, they said, for like 13 hours. Actually, they said when they moved her, she was blue, like when they all woke up. So these people were in the house getting high all night long while they thought she was sleeping. She's actually dead, sitting there blue, like in a hotel. And nobody even knew about it. And they didn't even call her mom. They called her mom and said, "Look, your daughter's dead, come get her." They didn't call the ambulance or nothing.
They actually found her in a ditch a week later. Body already started changing.
So that's 4 people that I was pretty close to. That 2 of them were my best friends that I grew up with.
There was a young lady beside me who gave me CPR at the time, so she can, you know, continue putting oxygen in my body so I can live until the paramedics came.
When I came through the seizure, they said I was foaming at the mouth. I have no recollection of this seizure whatsoever. I did not know my name when I came through. I did not know where I was.
They said my body temperature had dropped to 92. And another few hours, I would have been dead. And the overdose, either the overdose itself or when I fell out, I hit my head on the bathtub. And it was either the blow to the head or the overdose itself or the combination that caused brain damage. And it has changed my life. Like I said, this is about 18 years ago, and people that know me tell me that yes, it is improving, it is getting better, but it doesn't feel that way from the inside. This overdose changed my life. Like, you wouldn't believe it unless you went through something like it. Just how much it turns your life upside down. I always thought it would never happen to me. I always used to joke around and tell people, nah, I'm hard to kill, you know. I couldn't overdose if I wanted to. Well, I was wrong.
You know, I really didn't think it would happen to me. I thought that, you know, all them people are weak. Their tolerance is you know, they have a low tolerance, you know. And I just really never thought that I would overdose.
You know, I always thought I had power or control over my usage. I had power and control over who I hang around with. But nevertheless, it happened to me.
I've been to hell and back. You don't have to go there. Knowing you get clean, you know, you feel so bad about yourself. You know, you don't have to go through none of that. None of it. Everything that I just talked about, you don't have to. I just wish somebody would have sat down and talked to me.
Hi, I'm Dr. Krafchick. I'm the medical director here at Brandywine Counseling Community Services. I'm here to discuss with you 5 big risk factors concerning overdose. Number 1, mixing different substances.
Combination of meth, heroin, crack, cocaine, and alcohol.
Mixture of heroin and Xanaxes.
Crack cocaine and heroin.
He overdosed with heroin, but his cause of death was alcohol. It was a combination of the two.
Most recent time was heroin and Xanax. And the one before that was a handful of a cocktail of a lot of stuff. I'm thinking probably, it was definitely Adderall, methadone, Klonopin, and Xanax.
The most important ones I want you to be aware of: mixing different respiratory depressants. These are substances such as benzodiazepines, alcohol, and opiates specifically. When you mix these substances, it actually can decrease your heart rate and ultimately oxygen that goes to your heart and to your brain. So it's really important to avoid mixing these. So the moral of that story would always use one substance at a time. Number 2 risk factor would be tolerance.
I had been married for 2 years, had these kids that were just over a year, twins, and I had been clean for a long time, years. But the marriage wasn't working out, and I decided, one more time, what could it hurt? Wonder what it'd be like again. You know, the whole thing where you talk yourself into it, that it's not gonna ruin my life again. This time, I know better.
And I went to the bathroom, and I hadn't shot dope in a long time, and I pulled up about 3 bags, slammed it, and
the first time I overdosed, I was actually in detox.
I was clean for a while. Came home, stayed clean for a couple of days. Started hanging around them same friends, my old people.
If you've been incarcerated or you've been in rehab, you just don't realize how little tolerance you have.
Actually, that day that I bought the heroin was the only time I did dope in like the last 7 years, and I overdosed.
Overdose, it usually occurs after there's times of non-use. This is commonly seen after incarceration, hospital stays, or even times of sobriety. So if you are going to relapse after these times, it's really important to use smaller amounts during these time periods. Number 3 is quality. Poor quality basically equals unreliability.
I don't know if it was the purity of the heroin as much as it was just did too much.
You never know what you're gonna get. It's not like, it's not like a pharmaceutical where you know what milligrams you're getting. It's what you're putting in your body it can be anything. And it can happen to anyone.
You never know. You think you're so smart and you think you've got it together and you think, oh, I'll be careful. Oh, I won't do too much. Oh, I always make sure somebody else does some from this package first. So if anybody's going to overdose, it's going to be them, not me. To like test it out, make sure it's not too strong. But no matter how many steps you take to protect yourself, you can't, because people cut drugs with all kinds of stuff, and you just never know when your body has gotten to that point where it says, okay, that's it. The sponge is full. You can't put any more water in the sponge, it's gonna start dripping out. Well, it's the same thing with the drugs. You can put just so many drugs in your body, and then it's, it just can't work those drugs out of your body anymore.
Number 4, and this is important, it's if you're going to use, we want you not to use alone. Using alone or behind locked doors or closed doors does increase your risk for overdose and not having somebody there to help you. So always use with a quote-unquote friend.
I had locked the bathroom door, so my buddy had to crawl under there and carry me out.
My father had to break into the bathroom because the water was like up to here, and I was like totally out. I mean, I woke up in the morning in my bed, and I was like, damn, I went to sleep and detox. What the hell happened?
My best friend that I grew up with, we did everything together. Our first dates, our high school prom, everything we did together. She even moved in with me to live with me. That's how close we were. And I found her dead in her bedroom just about 7 months ago.
The advice I got was make sure you got somebody with you. But an addict's thinking is, if I got somebody with me, now I got to share the load. And I don't want to share because it's just enough for me. So I think, again, my advice would be have somebody with you, regardless of what you may have to share, or, but it's protection on yourself.
Number 5, it's your own body's health. There's certain chronic diseases that do put you at risk for overdose. Certain such things that compromise your immune system, such as HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, diabetes. Certain chronic illnesses such as liver disease, lung issues, they will put you at risk. Even if you're overall healthy, but you might have an acute situation such as being dehydrated from a viral illness or not eating well for certain periods of time will also put you at risk. So it's always important to eat well, stay hydrated, get your rest. These will minimize the chances of overdosing if you do use.
I've heard a lot of stuff. Shoot salt water in people. I've seen people sit there with somebody in the chair and smack them for about 20 minutes. I'm serious, and then they end up dead. Like, I really don't know really what to do for a person other than dial 911. That's the only thing I know the real thing to do for a person. You know what I mean? Because all the other stuff sound like you might kill them. You can still dial 911 and leave them there. I mean, but just dial 911.
Recognizing an overdose is important. If you are with someone and you think that they're overdosing, signs and symptoms to look for are people that have slow breathing, look pale or clammy, aren't responding when you're talking to them, even if their eyes are open. have a bluish tint or even have shallow breathing. So a lot of times what you want to do, even if you're yelling at them and they're still not responding, you can do like a sternal knuckle rub, like take your knuckles and rub them real hard right here on their sternum. If that's not working, the first thing you want to do is call 911.
So I'm a little confused on like that law deal. Like, so say I'm in a situation with a friend and, you know, he goes out and he's like overdose, he's blue and lips are purple, and I just call 911. I won't get in trouble for like sitting with them, making sure like they do their job. And
so Delaware recently enacted a bill called the Kristen L. Jackson and John M. Perkins Jr. law. It's also called the Good Samaritan Act. And what that does is it offers protection in some cases for immunity to charges when someone reports a medical emergency such as an overdose. So it's the point of that bill is to encourage people to call 911 when there's the possibility of an overdose, so that you can increase the probability of someone surviving that overdose and it not becoming a fatal circumstance.
would that count as police contact for somebody on probation or task?
It could.
But at least, if the least you're gonna do is call 911, make sure that the operator has the exact location, that you give them the clear address, give the 911 dispatcher as much information as you can, even if you're gonna leave.
Well, and the other piece to that too is, I think most people, if they really thought it through and processed it, would be okay with a violation as opposed to the death of a friend, or, do you know what I mean, whatever that consequence may be. While we hope that the bill reduces that, what most of us don't want is a friend's death or a loved one's death on our conscience, you know, when we could have done something to prevent it.
If you believe that someone you are with is experiencing an overdose, a good acronym to keep in mind is SCARE. S. Stimulation. Can the person be awakened? C. Call for help. If the person is unresponsive, dial 911. A. Airway. Make sure there is nothing inside the person's mouth to stop them from breathing. R. Perform rescue breathing. If necessary, tilt back the head, pinch the nose, and blow 2 quick breaths into the person's lungs every 5 seconds. E. Evaluate the situation and the surroundings. If the person begins breathing on their own, you do not need to continue the rescue breathing. If not, please continue the rescue breathing until help arrives, or follow the directives of the 911 attendant on the telephone.
Right after I came to in the emergency room, she was telling me about Narcan that they gave me. I believe that's the correct name. But anyway, it's something they give you that absolutely reverses the effects of the heroin. It, like a sponge, like it sucks the narcotics out of your system. But that saved my life. They brought me back using that.
And next thing I know, the ambulance was over top of me and injecting, I don't know the name of that stuff, they was injecting that stuff in me. It's supposed to bring you back. And when I came to, they told me not to use again. And of course I used like 10 minutes later. You know,
You would think when people get administered the Narcan, you know, because they come into the ER, or even they, like Dominica said, they were getting ready to carry it like in the ambulances now, but you would think that they would be like, oh, you saved my life, I love you. They're like, where is my... They are pissed off. They're not happy about Narcan. Narcan is not their friend at that time because it puts them in withdrawal. So it's not a pleasant experience. He told me that one time about his overdose. He was like, yo, when I woke up, I was looking at the nurses and they was fine and everything, but I was mad.
Yeah, I was salty. They kept trying to like talk to me. I'm just like, dude, like, Leave me alone. Hand me that bucket and get out of my face. But, you know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm.
This past February, I celebrated 27 years of sobriety.
I feel much better about me today than I used to. And it's a gradual process. It's work every day. It's nothing that I think I'll, like ace or complete, but it gets better every day.
I got help. I'm way more positive now. I got seeked counseling at a treatment center.
I'm really trying to stay clean. I'm still struggling.
And now I'm living a life that I couldn't ask for anything better. I have my children, I have my own apartment, I have a job, and I'm just grateful to be clean.
And I'm grateful I lived to tell about my addiction. Some people don't, especially Sue Ann, she don't.
And my choice today now is to stay clean one day at a time.
The changes I made were sticking to, I'm not going to use the day. I'm not going to use the day. And there's been 27 years later with that same attitude, I don't have to use the day.
I want to make sure every man, woman, and child in this country knows that nobody ever aspires to be a drug addict. Your child wants to be a ballerina, a cowboy, or a fireman. You have never heard them say, I want to grow up to be a drug addict. Because the truth of the matter is, addiction is a disease. It is treatable. The problem we have today in this country is it's not a sympathetic cause. But we're going to make it a sympathetic cause. We're going to bring it to everybody in this country. And we're going to change the awareness, and we're going to change the perception and make people realize that this is a disease, pure and simple.
Wristwatch stops, take a look at the clock. It also must be too fast. Open the shade to see it's getting dark. How could so much time have passed? To take more time to worry about that will only pass more time. Inside, move yourself from the inside. Every time you stop,
that one to the end.
Take a look at the clock.